Hello, Rochelle White. Welcome. Mufelola. Sorry for the lateness. Anne-Marie. Nkiru Ojimadu. Gregory David. Sister Kate. Olaniyi. Platop data doesn't better. Fumi Jeboda. Benny Gift. Mbabazi. Godwin Ibikwe, long time. Nice to see you again. Jane Munsaka. Vivian Taylor. Louis Abraham Chamberlain. Anne-Marie. Nkiru Jimadu. By the way, we just finished having birthday celebration for Lady Nkiru and Olena Stebeska. So those are our birthday girls today. And let's celebrate them before we start. Okay. Where's your flower? Unisla? Okay, no need for a best flower. This is Olena here. Hello. She's having a birthday today. So let's welcome Olena, and I'm sure you have greeted her. And you did, I'm sure they had a live broadcast today with them. And you see me laughing a lot and joking with my wife, and that is the birthday of Sister Pastor Nkiru and Olena that's making me to be like that. Що ти скажеш?
Українською.
English.
I have my birthday today, and I 38 years old.
38 years old.
Yes.
Wow, you look like 18 years old.
No, 38.
38, yes. Wow.
Yes, and I thank you, Pastor Sandy, about my life and change about in my life, and I am who I am. Thanks to Pastor Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Thank you, Pasiba. And then here comes Lady Nkiru here, another birthday girl. She's having a big bouquet here.
Yeah.
On her birthday.
Yes.
On her birthday, right.
Come to Keys and you get yes.
It's only if you're having birthday. Oh.
Yes, if you're having birthday.
We are not they give bouquet to everybody just like that, up and down. Left and right.
Oh, boy. Oh, thank you so much, everyone, for your warm wishes. I'm yet to read them. I said today I need a secretary because I'm not meeting up to reply to all your messages. I'm so blown away, especially by Dr. Bose Adelaja's note that she wrote on Facebook and her words that she spoke in person. And Dr. Sunday's words too. They are just too mind-blowing to me, and this video will be forever something that I will always pick up, you know. When I'm down, I will listen to it and I'm ready to go. So I thank you, everyone, and I thank Dr. Sunday and Dr. Bose for their love for me and my family and for believing in us and the way they keep pushing us to bringing out the best in us. You know, that's the heart of the Father. And I thank you, everyone that belongs to the SA family, for your love too and your wishes. I'm so high right now with joy. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Pastor, for everything. Thank you, Pastor Bosse, if you're watching. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday again.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Here we go. Start today's classes. Okay. So after congratulating the beautiful ladies, now we can continue with our class today. Sorry guys, trying to fix this thing. Okay. Before I continue, I think I'm going to revert back to my class last week. My teaching last week was about going from timidity to self-confidence. So I told my story, my life story last week. I don't know if any of you are here, you are all here, you heard that. Well, you were here last week, right? You saw the life story. You spoke after that, right? And you two spoke after that? Yeah. I want you didn't say it, right?
I saw it on Facebook.
You saw the full thing, the full story?
Not the full one, but I saw
Okay, a bit of it.
But, the beginning.
Okay.
The beginning of the story.
I would like to call you, before you people go, I would like you to call you, Pastor Nkiru and Kate, to tell us your impression from last week, topic on self-confidence, and what you got from it. Well, what impression that left with you, or what lesson you got from it. And because I'm going to continue today, and today I'm going to continue from where I stopped. And I stopped on talking about my history, my background, my story, my biography, basically. And a lot of people were really touched, and some of them were even broken. So I want to tell you today to invite everybody that you feel might be blessed by this story, because I'm going to continue where I left off from last week, Saturday. So please go and share this message with everybody, and let's share it publicly as well. Let's go ahead and share the message with not just one time with your people on your timeline, but let's share it with all friends that you might have. Let's go ahead and invite as many friends as possible, because this particular teaching today is going to be a continuation of the experience we had last week. And, somebody might regret that they don't start with us from the beginning. So let's hear the testimonies from Kate, or the feedback from Kate and Pastor Nkiru. And then after that, I'm going to continue to talk about your self-confidence depends on your reference point. I want to talk to you about how last time I spoke about how my self-confidence took a hit. And I want to tell you today about how you could use reference point to recover yourself and to even discover your confidence level. And after that, how you could use reference point to bring back your confidence. But meanwhile, let's reflect a little bit on the weekend on last weekend, on the teaching we had last week. And then I will take it from there. Okay. Kate is starting.
Hello, good day everyone. Okay, last time I was so much impressed with the story of Pastor that I went back also to my past, and maybe some of you have seen that what I have found in my past. I have found a picture where there was a very beautiful 15 years old girl, and I just couldn't believe that I never liked this girl, and I was also having very low self-confidence, and I was very timid. What Pastor's story made me to think of. We all know Pastor as someone to whom we refer like an example. We always look at Pastor that he does something that is not possible for us, usually. You know, we think that what Pastor does is not possible for us because he's a supernatural person. This is what we think about him. Especially of his level of his self-confidence, we think sometimes it's not we cannot get to this level. But after hearing this story of Pastor Sunday, or how the root of his timidity, the root of his lack of self-confidence that he had when he was a young boy, when you hear the story, you think that everything that you were passing through, it was nothing. And I don't know how it happened that we all have such a low self-esteem and we are not confident in ourselves because we didn't go through what Pastor went through. So what Pastor was telling is that all the world was not happy or not pleased with him being on the earth. Everyone who got in touch with him from the time that he was in the mother's womb till the time he was born and going to school, everyone was not pleased with him being on the earth. So the root of his timidity, the root of his lack of confidence was because basically the earth, like people on the earth, no one wanted him, except maybe one person who accepted him and was taking care of him. Due to the culture, some culture circumstances, all the circumstances that were in his life, like he was not wanted like many of us we were. And after hearing this story, I do not understand how it happens that we have such a lack of self-confidence. It's just, funny, like how much we think about ourselves and we concentrate on ourselves, what everyone is saying about us, and we're building our, esteem on something not important at all. I don't know how we got to this point with the lives that we had, because most of us, we were loved by our parents. We had both parents. Most of us, we had, we succeeded in schools, and we were loved by people that were surrounding us. And this is not something that Pastor had, because when he was even trying, what he shared, that when he was even trying to talk, he was seeing many eyes looking at him that were not supporting him, And so this is something that we didn't have as an experience, And so I was impressed with this, and I understood that the way I was building my self-esteem in the process when I was growing is just, feelings about what everyone is saying and too much thinking about myself. And after this story, going back to my past and going through my pictures, I found this picture where I was really beautiful girl, and I don't understand why did I have a lack of self-esteem, and I thought like I was the worst person in the world, And Pastor was saying, it was a lesson for me. If you can be in such a position to be rejected so much, and then you can go to the position where everyone is looking at you and making you as a role model, an example, then it means that everyone can go there and everyone can get to this point. It's just work and knowledge that we need to find out. First, we need to know how to get there, and then we have to apply this, and we will be there as well. And for us, as for Christians, as for people who know the truth, and we know how people can change their lives, it's not an excuse. Anything that we had in life is not an excuse to hold it inside. We cannot hold it inside. We don't have a right to hold it inside. We have to go. We have to we have to bring this information that we have inside of us to other people, and we don't have excuse to have low self-esteem, to have low self-confidence. Lack of self-confidence there is no excuse. So Pastor will be showing us, and I'm eager to learn this.
Hello everyone, still carrying around my flowers, my birthday. So, what did I learn from last week's program? I understood that when I was growing up, when I thought that my parents were poor, that I didn't even know what poverty was then, compared to what Pastor went through. And when he showed his legs, did you see his legs? With all those wounds, you could not see even a normal space on his legs. You can imagine the kind of condition he was when he was younger. So, if he could come out from such situation, from such lowest pit, and raise himself up to like a huge mountain that all of us now, depend on, or I can say a huge tree that we all stand under to take shadow from, to take rest on, then there's nothing any of us cannot do. I'm not sure there's anybody on this platform that underwent the kind of thing that Dr. Sunday Adelaja went through when he was growing up, because his rejection started even before he was born, because the parents were like, how will I say it, heroes of rejection. They were already in this mess before even his conception. So you can imagine the things that went through even when he was in there, a baby that wasn't wanted, a baby that came out when there was no, you can say no love, just get together and have a baby, because you people belong to the same down and out. So after listening to his story, it's an encouragement to me that I can get to any height that I want, but I have to work hard. I have to at least model what he has left, what has been making him get to where he is. So there is no amount of low self-esteem that you have now that you cannot overcome, but you have to model the way he came out of it. Another thing that he mentioned is that it was his fear. There was this root, that the root of all these things were fear. What will people say, and the way they were looking at him, meaning that we all also, I think that's what he wants to deal with today, find the root of our self-esteem. There's something that brought about it. When we treat it, then we will know how to go about it. So, we are here to learn more what he has to say today. Thank you, everyone, for your wishes. Thank you.
Okay, here we are. Yes. So, having remembered a little bit about, having gone through, reminded you about my past and how that played a role in my low self-esteem. And since we are talking about self-confidence, this month, I guess, or these following weeks. I want to say, to continue from where I stopped, for you to be able to regain your self-esteem or self-confidence, one important factor is reference point. I want you to pay attention to that word and write that word down. It's an important word that you must know. It's called reference point. Reference point determines either you are going to have low self-esteem, timidity, lack of confidence, or you are going to have a lot of confidence, high self-esteem. So to a large point of it, all of us have a reference point. Now, you remember we spoke about the art of thinking, and I spoke on the art of thinking like for 3 months almost. And so the art of thinking, I spoke about reference. But today, inference. I spoke about inference. I spoke about inference. That all thinking as an inference, or is based on inference. But today I'm talking about reference. But I also spoke about, the day I spoke about inference, I also mentioned reference. But I was not talking about reference point. But the meaning and the explanation I gave about reference, I'm sure you might still remember it. So reference point plays a very important role in who we become in life. So a lot of our lack of self-confidence is based on our reference point. And even if you happen to be one of those ones who have confidence, self-confidence, is also thanks to your reference point. So what is a reference point? Reference point is the point of reference that we always subconsciously refer to in our mind or in our subconscious mind that gives us our value and that gives us our significance, or lack of significance, or timidity. So reference point is something that you refer back to. Not necessarily something that is within you, but something that is connected to you, something that is around you, or something that is in your, in your history or in your past, something that you refer to when you refer to yourself, something that you connect yourself to. So in terms of self-confidence, when we are talking about reference points, we are talking about those memories in your mind, those memories in your solitude, in your solitary time, that you are constantly remembering when you talk about yourself. What are the things that you associate yourself with? The things and the facts and the history and the events that you associate yourself with, normally they are, at the end of the day, your reference points. They are your reference point. Now, your reference point could be killing you, while your reference point could also be lifting you. So when it comes to self-confidence, a lot of your memories, they are the reference point that we are talking about. For example, a lady that is always looking at herself through the prism of the rape that took place in her life a number of years back, that is a reference point. When she thinks about herself, she's thinking about the fact that she was raped and that she's not good enough. And that begins to form attitude to herself. And it begins to form a lack of self-confidence. So and not just the rape, I'm just using that because that's what women come across all the time. But anytime you think of yourself and your reference point is something bad that has happened to you in the past, or something bad that you immediately, automatically associate yourself with, well, that is what is responsible for lack of self-confidence. Those bad memories and those bad things that have happened to you that you are referring back to, they are killing you each time. They are killing your self-confidence. They are killing your confidence. They are killing your sense of worth, and they are bringing you down to the floor. They are bringing you down right to the floor. So point of reference point is very important when it comes to self-confidence. So anytime you talk to anybody and they have issues with self-confidence, you remember that word, reference point. So if you have issue with confidence and self-confidence, to a large extent, it is because you are either knowingly or unknowingly referring back to something. You are in your mind always going back to something. You have a point of reference that you are going back to. And that point of reference is what is killing you, is what is taking you back, is what is holding you back from having your confidence, is what is stealing you of your confidence, robbing you of your confidence. So there is no self-confidence without reference point. There is no self-confidence without reference point. Because for you to also become self-confident and to regain back your self-esteem, you also need reference point. You also need reference point. You also will need to refer back to something. There must be something, there must be a reference that you are connecting that is establishing your confidence. There must be a reference that you are going back to, you are referring back to, that is lifting you up. Or if you are seeing that you are going down, then there is a reference that is bringing you down. There is definitely something that you are referring to which is bringing you down. So I would like us to go and share this message again. If you have not yet shared it, go look for the share button and let's share it with all our friends, because I'm going to now begin to talk more about my own story. I'm going to start with my story from where I left the last time. Let me tell you about the major references that contribute to our confidence in life, or lack of confidence. The number one reference point that we all have that goes a long way to influence our confidence or lack of confidence is our mother. Your mother is your number one reference point. What do you remember when you remember your mother? Is it pain? Is it a feeling of loss? Is it a feeling of blessing? Is it a feeling of confidence, self-appraisal, self-worth, or lack of self-worth? A lot of things in our lives and where we're going and where we'll go or how we behave ourselves, to a large extent, is connected to the relationship and the memory we have of our mothers. If your connection, and I'm talking about reference, so as you are growing up, either you like it or not, or either you do it knowingly or unknowingly, you are you are subconsciously referring back to your mother, or maybe to your grandmother, whoever it is that played that role of a mother in your life. In my case, it is my grandmother. So my grandmother is the reference point when I think about my life. But if you don't have a memory about your mother or your grandmother or whoever what the father figure or the mother figure was in your life, if you don't have a memory, you don't have a reconnection, it also affects you. It affects who you become. It affects how you look at yourself. And it affects your confidence or lack of confidence. It affects your personality and how you live through your life. So self-confidence of any human being or lack of self-confidence, self-esteem or lack of it is dependent to a large extent on our mothers, So, or grandmothers, or whoever played the mother role in your life. If it is only negative things that you remember about her, maybe she was wicked towards you, or she was cultivating timidity in you, fear in you, or anything negative, that definitely goes to a long way to affect your self-esteem. That goes a long way to affect your self-esteem. If it is negative, then you will lack self-confidence. You will lack confidence. You will lack self-esteem. But if the memory that you have about your mother is all positive and is all encouraging, then that also sows the seed of confidence in you, and it helps you to deal with the situations of life. And it helps you in life, and you become more confident, more self-assured, and with better self-esteem in life. So that's the number one reference point that affects your confidence. Number two reference point that affects your confidence as you are growing up. It doesn't matter what age you are. Your reference point is what you refer back to. Your memory, your memory. What is the next, apart from mother, what is your next reference point that affects the life of every human being, every child? Instagram, would it? So the next reference point that affects who you are, your self-image and confidence, is your father. Your father. But if he was absent, that's a big blow to your confidence. If he was never there, that's also a big blow. Even if he was there and never performed or functioned as a father, you might not know it, but subconsciously, that has taken something away from you. So your father is another reference point to how you feel and why you became who you became. Either you are self-confident or you lack self-confidence. So that's number two major factor that affects your confidence and your self-esteem in life. But when you have a father that is there, that is always encouraging you, that is always putting confidence in you, that was there for you, that gave you the value system, that affirmed your personality, that brought the value system to you and affirmed you, and that, taught you, and, led you, and the presence of a father and the role of a father, it goes a long way to, to making you a confident person in life, and to making you to be ready, to be assured in life, to have respect, self-respect to yourself, to your society, and to have self-esteem and self-confidence throughout life. But if when you think about your father, everything you think about is positive, you can change the world. Such a guy, such a man or a woman can change the world. If whatever you think about your father is how he poured into you how he is good example, excellent example, perfect example, how he's an achiever, how he's so good, how he has character. You are unstoppable. You are unstoppable. But if whenever you think of your father, it's voidness, you see, emptiness, you see. Whenever you think of a father, is no reference point, lack of it, no reference point. Then, of course, throughout life, you will be discovering that there is nothing, you don't have an anchor. There is nothing to hold on back to, no reference point. And what reference point is supposed to do is to give you a push, moral push, is to give you a push from the back. Reference point is supposed to fill you with energy, to renew your strength. But when that is not there, nothing to refer back to, nothing. So it beats you down. Fathers, or maybe you might not be your biological father, but maybe you had a father that was the reference point that you could refer back to as a father. That plays another important role in the way you feel yourself through life, either confident or unassured. Next thing that affects your self-confidence, the next reference point that affects your self-confidence in life is siblings and family members. Siblings and family members. So these things are what affects you, either you like it or not. Either you like it or not, these things were programmed into you from when you were a child. So in your environment where you grew up, you probably had your mother, your father, or your mother or father, and then you had some people who were, to you, regarded as your family members or your siblings. So who were they? Were they positive examples or negative examples? Were they good examples or destructive examples? At that point, you might not know, but now when you look back, what is the connection? What is the reference point between you and the family members that you grew with? I'm not talking about family members that you didn't know, that you didn't grow up with. I'm talking about the people the family members and the siblings that were around when you grew up in your childhood. Those that were present. They are the ones that determine what your confidence is. So when you think about your childhood, or when you look back in your life, or when you look at your own life, and you look at your environment, what do you see in your siblings? Are your siblings a negative force or a positive force? Do you see them as contributing something positively to you or something negatively to you? I am going to be talking about my own story, but I'm giving you the principles first, right? The major reference points in life. Then later on I will talk to you about how these reference points affected my life. Next point. Apart from your siblings and family members, the next thing that affects your confidence in life is your environment. The whole environment that you are growing up in, the whole ambience, the whole environment that you are growing up in. Was it a village? Was it a town? Were you growing up in a megapolis like New York or Chicago? Or you are growing up in Lagos, or you are growing up in a small village, or in a provincial city somewhere, or you are in a province somewhere. Your environment that you grew up in. What was the environment like? Do you have electricity? Do you have Water, you didn't have. Do you have transport? Do you have cars? You didn't have. So what was the environment like? What was the condition of living? So what was the condition of that environment? What was the condition, the environment? Was there crime there? Is it safe? So what do you remember when you look back at your own environment? Do you remember positive things? Is it giving you encouragement, energy? Is it infusing in you self-confidence and assurance? Or is the opposite? Or maybe when you remember and look back and look at your environment, you don't want to think about it at all. You want to run away from it. So your environment also goes a long way to determining your confidence, your self-confidence, who you become, and why you are behaving the way you are behaving. Next point that influences and determines your self-confidence, apart from your environment, are your neighbors. What is the association you have with you, yourself, and your neighbors? A lot of times, what you see in your neighborhood and with your neighbors actually determine what you become in life. So what is the people around you doing? What is the habit? What are the habits and the behavioral patterns of people around you? What are the influence they had on you? How do they affect you? Positively or negatively? So it is what you remember what you remember will go a long way to influencing your confidence. If you grew up in a good environment, good neighborhood, that will be a blessing to you. So the number 5 point is your neighbors. Your neighbors. It's different from environment. Environment is just the condition of the whole place, how the environment looks like. So your environment is different from your neighbors, but your neighbors is what we're talking about now. Next point that affects your confidence, next reference point. So these are all reference points. And all of us, either we like it or not, we refer back to all these things at one time or the other in our lives. You cannot remove them from your biography. They are there in your subconscious mind. And they are contributing and they are fueling your self-esteem or lack of it. So they are there. They are reference points that determine your confidence or lack of confidence. Next point, reference point that affects and determines your confidence is schools and classmates. Schools and classmates. So another thing that affects your confidence or lack of confidence is school or classmates. What is your memory from school? Or what is your memory from schools? What about from classmates? A lot of people's children have been damaged by their classmates. Classmates have actually determined the future of a lot of people. Schools have also determined either to the good or to the worse, the destiny of a lot of people. So classmates, schools, is another reference point that we all use and that affect us, either positively or negatively. So your self-confidence largely depends on all these factors that I've mentioned. So the way you feel, the way you are, is most likely connected to one of those factors. So if you are confident, it is one of those factors that have contributed to you. If you lack confidence, it is also one or many of those factors that have contributed to you being who you are. There are other factors, of course. Other factors are God, if you believe in God, or you didn't believe in God. So faith in God or lack of faith in God also has contributed to your confidence or lack of confidence. Next thing that could affect your confidence as a reference point. So God is a reference point that affects your confidence. But apart from God, another reference point that could affect your self-confidence is degree, education degree. Where are you educationally? That also could affect your self-image. Are you educated or you lack education? You have low degree or high degree. That affects you too. Another thing that is a reference point for people that affects their self-confidence is the kind of job they have. The kind of job that they have. Those ones who have good jobs, they have good self-confidence about themselves. That's a good reference point to them. Those who don't have a good job, it also affects them somehow. So your job could affect your self-confidence. The society that you live in, not the environment where you grew up now, but this country that you live in, the society that you live in, also affects your self-esteem sometimes. So these are the factors that affect us and our self-confidence. And I think you people should, I'm having an assignment for you right now to reflect and think on your childhood and on your life. Do these factors really affect you? Have they contributed to your confidence or lack of confidence? Kate, would you like to tell us what you think? You all can talk? Okay.
Yes,
Is it true?
so much. I was finding like
So much?
I was understanding how my self-esteem was built, because after last live broadcast, I couldn't understand how I could have low self-esteem, because in comparison to your life, Pastor, like I couldn't understand how I could have low self-esteem, because my life was basically good. I don't have any complaints that much, you know. I thought we were poor, but not that poor as you described. And so which reference points I found that built my self-esteem?
Builds it down.
Yeah. First, mother. I cannot complain that I had bad mother. Okay, but my mother is perfect mother. She was young when she gave birth, so of course she was growing when she was growing me up. So of course she had mistakes in raising me, but she was giving her best. This is for sure. I know this, but. From what I can analyze, she didn't have her own self-esteem strong. And Pastor said this is affecting us. And I think that she was looking for, to build her self-esteem, looking for different reference points. And it was not working. The time was difficult then. We had, crisis in our country, and the USSR was falling apart. And many people, they couldn't find jobs, they were losing good jobs they had, they couldn't, it was difficult with finances, etc. So she had low self-esteem at that moment. And I understand that it was affecting me also. My father, I love my father so much, but most of the time he was doing business, I didn't see him. They were divorced from when I was young. And I remember myself always waiting for him at the window. I was watching in the window to see if my father will come. So I didn't have also that self-esteem built, on the right model. My father was someone who was far all the time, and I think maybe I thought that because he is not coming there, maybe I'm not very good or something like this. I cannot remember this, I cannot refer to it, but I remember that I lacked this so much. So, and I could see another families with that were full, so most probably my self-esteem was affected so much with this. And I remember that I was also, I don't remember that much something, my father to say something good, to encourage. So usually when I was hearing something from my father, I was hearing that this is not right, this has to be correct, this is not bad, correct. And that's why from all the authority people, I expect only saying that that's not right, wrong. This is what I'm expecting all the time. Like I'm conscious about this, and for a long time I'm conscious about this, but still I can see that this is happening in my life. Then my family members and siblings, well, most of our family members were struggling from alcohol if they were growing up, because this is how they were solving problems, and I hated this thing. And like my self-esteem was affected by this, because I thought that I'm coming from the society which is not, they don't know how to live. They cannot cope with their own problems, with their life. And my self-esteem was low also because of this, because I thought that I didn't understand why other children are in good families and everything like this. But I cannot say that they were really bad, they were really bad in having alcohol all the time, because I know that they were working, they were providing for me, for their families, and so it's just that they were not successful, let's say like this. They were not successful, so I didn't expect myself to be successful. And then next is environment, if I remember correctly. Well, I didn't have a bad environment, so I cannot refer that much to this. But when we go, because I was in good neighborhood and everything, but if I go to the next point, which is neighbors, here I remember there was a really bad memories, because we were living in one apartment together with neighbors. It was that time, like community of apartments like this, and we had fights there and everything. So I was always thinking about, because I was reacting to what was going on there, I was thinking about myself that I'm really bad, because I could take, something from the kitchen, throw into neighbors. The reactions were terrible. So after this, I was thinking about myself that maybe I'm a little bit crazy or something like this. And regarding classmates, yeah, I think it affected so much. I had a good school, very good school. It was a school with English slang, which for that time, it was not, it's not affordable for many people, but my mother, she decided to take me there, so I was learning English from the first grade. We never missed lessons. There were always lessons. And I remember when I was meeting my friends from neighbor, they were free from lessons like almost day after day, because there were no teachers. So we had always teachers. They were very good professionals. But the problem was there is that all the class, they were rich people, and I was from poor family, so I was comparing myself all the time to them. So at this point, I think that even sometimes giving a child to a school like this, which my mother, she tried the best for me, but at the same time it didn't work that much good for me. So because I got knowledge from there, but it didn't work good for my self-esteem, because I was comparing myself to those guys that are having nice clothes, that are having everything that's necessary, and I didn't have. They were laughing at me and everything, and this was affecting me. I understand that maybe at this point I started to look so much at myself, like what's wrong with this, what's wrong with that, and etc. and so on. And of course I was challenging my mom also, because I was trying to push her for our family to be on the same level. And so there was no like tragedies in my life, but all this all these small things, they contributed to my self-esteem, and I can confirm that even small things like, how classmates treat you can affect you so much. And then education, I think that all the reference points, they are influencing another reference points. Because in the school, I thought that all of the neighbors, they were better than me in everything. And I was also thinking that they are better in studies. And I was looking at girls that could express their thoughts, and I thought like it's impossible for me to stand up in front of the class and express my thoughts like this. So it affected also the school that I selected later, where I went after a technical school that I went after after I finished school. But later, what I can understand, that later I already started to build my self-esteem on my achievements, because I already started to be more confident because of job that I were able to get, because I was always, my reference points were comparison to other people, like because I got a good job and I started to compare myself to other people the same age, and I was taking like 10 times more than them, and my self-esteem was built on this, that I'm perfect or whatever. But and unfortunately it didn't help me to develop, because I thought that I achieved already, so I didn't develop. And that's why well, it's I think this is all connected. I understand that if I want or not, it is affecting me even now, but I understand I'm also conscious about this. And even if I stand in front of people and speak, and the fear that I had in my school, to speak in front of people, if such a fear comes from some subconscious, I can deal with it, because I just understand that this is memory from the past. It's not real. It's just, imagination. And I work with this and many things like this. But I agree that I was, even when now Pastor was referring to all these reference points, I could find everywhere, and I could see the map, how my self-confidence were built. So I'm eager to know how to correct it now.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now my story. So you heard of some of my story the other day. Now, when you know that my own situation, that in my case, I grew up without knowing my father. Let's start with my mother. I grew up without a mother. So that is already a blow to my self-esteem right there, because there was no reference point. I didn't even know what I had a mother, but it was my grandmother. That was my reference point, a mother, so no mother. So that could have affected the self-confidence the lack of self-confidence that I had growing up, and the timidity, and the panic attack that I used to have. But not only there was no panic, there was no reference point like a mother. There was even no reference point like a father. So no father, no mother, no reference point at all. So there is no way that will not affect your self-esteem. So it was only about 12 years old when I got to know my mother. But that time, it was too late. I didn't have any feelings towards her. So I didn't feel that she was my mother. I didn't have any feeling towards her. They just said, oh, mother. I couldn't even call her my mother. They just knew in my head, but no connection. So those kind of things go a long way to determining your self-confidence. So your reference point is important. Your mother is your reference point. Your father is your reference point. But fortunately for me, I had a reference point in my siblings and family. But like I said, I didn't know my father's side of the family. I only knew my mother's side. I didn't know my father's side. But I will come back to that. That was a good reference point that I will come back to, that how it helped me to regain and to build my self-confidence. So just like these things that we are mentioning are, and they could take away your self-confidence, so also you could use them to build your self-confidence. Like I said, that I wasn't having a father, but that was not the only problem. I wasn't having a father then. Even in the house where I grew up, there was no man. So there was no reference point to a man at all. But like I said, the siblings, family, thank God for them. That was a good compensation. Next point, environment. The environment that I remembered was my attempt to read. Everybody saying you can't read, you are dull. Everybody's attention trying to get me to read. So when I look about my environment, I only remember those pressures coming. The poverty, the need, the lack. So that doesn't do good to your environment. I mean, to your confidence. Neighbors. What will I say about my neighbors? I don't think they were bad, but I think mainly all the neighbors were just trying to make a living. The neighbors were just trying to make a living for themselves, everybody trying to survive. And nothing tremendously positive about it. Schoolmates, ooh, that was horrible. First of all, we needed to walk about 1 kilometer or 2 kilometers to school, or 3 kilometers. to school every day. Then, when you are timid and you don't have a parent, you don't have a father or mother, other school students seem to pick on you and intimidate you and bully you. So school is one of the places where people could really get their self-confidence very much damaged. So school was a nightmare. It was not a good reference point for building confidence, because there was name calling. So, like what I spoke about, class awareness, you thinking everybody's looking at you. Class awareness in the sense that the class of the people, some people dress well, some people don't dress well. And if you happen to be the ones that don't dress well, the students, there's a big difference. And you just know that you don't belong, that you belong to the outcast in the class. So that is another factor that could really, be a blow to your confidence. Because the social class awareness could be very devastating. So, school and classmates, in my own case, they were not too much a factor of confidence. They were rather destroying my confidence. So those were the factors that I remember growing up with. And there is no healthy reference point at this point. So now I want to go and touch on another crucial point. I want you to stop. If you are doing this, I want you to also stop and try to ask yourself these questions. What are your reference points when you are growing up? And what are your reference points up to today? What are the reference points of your life? Another thing you could do, you can make a list of the positive reference points and the negative reference points that you remember up to now. When you refer to something, what are the negative ones that don't encourage your self-esteem? And what are the good ones? What are the positive reference points that you remember that you could also use to bring forth and to strengthen your self-esteem? Unfortunately, a lot of Christian religious people, when they tell you about your past or going back to your past, or they always connect everything back to generational curse, some demons and some evil spirits. But that's not what we are doing here. We are not talking about curses or evil spirits or generational curse. No. We are just talking about self-analysis. And to be able to analyze, understand yourself better, to be able to, be able to know how to approach your life and how to rebuild your life better. Now, let's go to see in my own life what are the positive reference points that I could remember. You remember when I spoke about my siblings, I mentioned the fact that was one positive area when I was growing up. So my siblings were family members and siblings were some of the most positive factors of confidence building that I had. Now, talking about that, how could that bring me confidence? Well, one of my uncles, who was the firstborn of the grandma that I was living with, my grandmother that I was living with. So I didn't know it was my uncle. I thought it was my brother, my blood brother. But so for me, it's still the same thing. So he was very well educated. Then two of them before my mother. So one of them before my mother, the other one after my mother. They went to school. They got good education. One of them went to what is that famous university in France? The University Sorbonne. That's the best university, one of the best universities in the world. He went to University of Nigeria, Nsukka. He finished from there, first class, first degree. Then got a scholarship to Sorbonne. Spoke French very well. Met his wife there, who is an English lady. Married. Went back to England. I think he taught in the University of Leeds. And then moved back to Nigeria. But when I was growing up, at 6 years old, he was dead. And also we had another, the junior one to my mother. That's another senior brother of mine. Also educated in University of Ibadan. Got a good degree. Was working in the Ministry of Finance and Statistics. Doing well. But all those people died in 6 months from each other. No, in a period of 6 months. Then there was another one who was an older sister as well. She was very wealthy, was a millionaire. So 3 of them died in 6 months. So that totally ruined everything. But while I was growing up, even though they were dead, but I kept on hearing of their exploits. I kept on hearing my senior brothers that were younger than them, that were growing up, and who remember these my siblings. I mean, these my brothers, these my uncles, these my cousins. I didn't remember them, but so much. But my brothers and sister remember them, and they were always referring back to them, and the whole village remembered them. And of course, I saw the senior one. I could see the children, the wife, and so I could see. But I could hear about their exploits all the time. So continuously hearing about how these people came from that village where I was growing up in, from the same family, and became so significant and so prominent and so popular in the country and so successful. And all our siblings, my 2 brothers and my sister, they were always talking about themselves, saying, oh, we are going to restore the glory, we are going to bring it back, we are going to become successful as well. And because the firstborn that married the English lady is a doctor of science, is doctor of philosophy, PhD, so from when I was a child, I always used to hear about doctor of science, doctor of philosophy, doctor of philosophy. So even when I didn't know what it meant, I knew I was supposed to be a doctor. Not medical doctor, but doctor of science. DSA, Dr. Sonda Dilaja, right? I knew I was supposed to be a doctor. Because that was a positive. So that became the confidence builder in me. Okay, their death on one hand was a confidence crusher. It was killing my confidence and intimidation because, a lot of things connected to that. I will not talk about that now. I would rather let you go and read my biography all along. But I was always remembering what they did. So because I knew that this, my brother, particular one, the most accomplished one, because he was a teacher, he was a lecturer in the University of Ife. He was University of Ife in the 70s and 80s. Even up to now, it's one of the leading universities in Nigeria. and one of the most prominent ones. And my brother was a lecturer there, was a professor there. And he was not just a professor there, but he was, heading a department in the Nigerian Foreign Affairs Ministry or Foreign Affairs in the 70s, back in the 70s. So that shows to me that, so that was a positive confidence builder for me. So I knew that if I would struggle the way they struggled, that I could make it. So despite all the dark and all the horrible reference points that surrounded me while growing up, despite all the negative memories and references that I could only refer to, there was this positive factor that we had people in this family before. I had my brothers who were successful, who were hard workers, who succeeded, and especially like I said, the senior one, that he studied very well, did very well in Nigeria, traveled abroad, got a scholarship to travel abroad. So that became my dream. So it became my reference point about that I'm going to work hard and I'm going to travel abroad one day. Just like he went abroad, studied, came back and became prominent, I knew that I would go abroad one day, come back and become prominent. Because I was hearing all the time. So now my question to you is, can you stop right now and try to look at your life, maybe not just your childhood, but even your present right now, your life right now, and try to see what are the positive reference points that you could use to build your confidence and confidence level. Because this particular one singular point, went a long way to helping me to build confidence, and not just to build confidence, but to also build vision for my life, direction, purpose for my life. Maybe your parents were somebody. Maybe your dad became someone. Maybe your mom was successful. Maybe your siblings were successful as well. Or maybe your environment was good. Or maybe your neighborhood was nice. Or maybe you had a father. Maybe you have a mother. Look at all the factors that we had mentioned above, all the factors that could affect and can affect your self-image and confidence, and see how you could build, how you could find, which one could you regard as a confidence builder, as a positive one that you could lay back on and use to build your image today. So that is about that. So my siblings became my own positive factor of self-confidence. But looking back today, though, I'm seeing much more positive things than I saw when I was growing up. I'm seeing much more positive factors that I can now use to build a better confidence for myself. Of course, there are factors like God. That is the major game changer for me. Another, of course, factor of confidence is my university experience and education, because I did better than most students, and so that has become a factor of confidence to me today. My job, society, things like that. God, degree, job, society, all those things could affect your self-confidence. But today, apart from the things that are coming from your childhood. So right now, all those ones are good for me. Everything is working out for me. But when I look back at my own life as a lad, as a kid, I was only majorly talking and seeing only the evil things that took place in my childhood, the negative things, and those things were making me to have low self-esteem. So bad, I wanted to commit suicide twice when I was 13 and 14. I told the story last week. But yet, when I look back at the very same factors that were bringing low self-esteem, humiliation, shame to me, I can now see that they are some of the best conditions and some of the best factors, some of the best references that made me who I am today. Let's examine some of these points that I used to look at as negative, but now I see as positive. Number one reference point that I used to think was negative, that I now see as a positive factor for building me and my future and my confidence, is my sufferings. The number one factor of my self-confidence and my factor of success in life that I used to look at and weep and feel ashamed and humiliated and intimidated and low self-esteem about, was the suffering that I had to go through. Because when my siblings died, those 3 people in 6 months, my grandmother had to begin to go back to the farm, to the bush, to get firewood, and then I was the only one with her. So we were going together with her to the firewood, to the bush, to get firewood and to be carrying in my head and everything. Just what you see African women do today. When I was growing up, I looked at this as suffering. But today, I see it as a positive factor of growth and of confidence. Let me give you an example of how this has become a factor of confidence and growth for me, to me. At the point when I was in the university here in Russia, I'd never learned Russian language before I came, so I didn't know any Russian alphabet or Russian language, and I couldn't speak the language. And I came late to the school, so my professor said I would never pass this language, and he even said, if you ever speak this language, I will go to the church, even though I'm an atheist and a communist, but I will go to the church and put flower and put a candle there. And but he said it will never happen because you will never learn this language. You see, that is the first time I realized that my suffering could become a factor of confidence. After he said, you will never speak this language, you will never, nothing will ever. He said he's an experienced teacher and he has never seen anybody as bad as me make it. So when I went back to my room that day, I was weeping and crying to God and praying that, God, this scholarship was my way of getting out of poverty. Don't let them send me back in shame. I was praying to God and asking him to help me. Then it was at this point that I remembered my childhood, where I'm coming from. And the memory was still very fresh in my mind because I just left there a few months ago. And I could remember the suffering that I went through in the village, or the suffering of being in the bush, in the sun, the scorch of the sun, the 45-degree sun, 42-degree sun. And I needed to be there for like 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 3 hours a day, 6 hours a day. The endurance, the suffering that I needed to go through in the farm with the wounds. You saw the wounds in my legs last week. All those sufferings that I needed to go through by enduring those wounds and those scars and the thistles and and just the bleeding and everything. So while I was remembering those things, those sufferings, for some reasons, I was able to connect it to where I was right there. And I was saying, God, if I could suffer throughout all that I went through in Africa, and I was able to survive it, what will it take for me to be able to overturn the words of this professor? I just knew in my mind that it is hard work. So what work will I need to work that this man says I cannot even work it? What labor will it take? What time consuming labor will it take for me to be able to learn this language? Is it not just hard work? If I work hard, if I could work hard in a condition that is harsh and scorched and difficult, and could survive it, and could come out of that village and gain a scholarship, won't I be able to work here? That is when it clicked on for me. I said, I was in the bush. I used to go after class. I used to come back from school in my village. After school, I would go back to the bush. I would go to the bush to get firewood for another a few hours. So that is how I came up with my strategy. And the strategy was that, okay, I will do the same thing here. I will go to the class. In the university here, we are starting school from 7:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. So I said, okay, I will go and do my lunch, and then from there I will go to the library. And I will stay in the library for 6 hours, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 9 o'clock in the evening. I will just be working there. What will it take? Hard work. I'm going to do the hard work. Yes, it's going to be painful to discipline myself to sit down and be studying, but the pain here is not going to be anything compared to the pain from my village. The pain in the library is nothing compared to the pain of the scorching African sun, 45 degrees. So I said, no problem. That pain for me is nothing comparable. This pain of library and research is nothing compared to the pain of my village. You see, my negative factor, the factor that was killing me, and making me to, pity myself, the factor that Satan was using to bring down my confidence, now became my wealth all of a sudden. So I was able to come up with a strategy. Okay, go to class, finish class, don't go home, don't do what other people are doing. Though that's painful for a young 19-year-old, 20-year-old boy not to be able to go out with his friends, never go out with friends, never go out to play or to do all the things people are doing in the university and in the dormitory, But I said that pain is still nothing compared to the pain that I escaped from. So that pain had now become my reference point. Reference point that gave me confidence that if I could make it over there under the sun, that I will survive the pain here in the library. It also gave me the confidence that if I could survive the suffering over there, the suffering of studying Russian language is nothing compared to the suffering of survival in Africa. So I turned it to my positive energy. I turned it to my positive factor of confidence. So that's what God used. So looking back today, I see that is one of the greatest wealth God has given me, my suffering. My reference points that used to be negative, they are actually some of my greatest blessings. Because, for example, when I started the Embassy of God Church, everybody was saying, black people, white people don't go to black people's church, black pastors' church. Number two, there are no mega churches in Europe. Nobody can build mega church in Europe. But for me, there was nothing impossible after what I went through. If I could come out of that village, everything is now possible. Because you need to know the kind of village I'm coming from. And how it's almost impossible. If you listen to my testimony last week, you know what I'm talking about. That it's impossible for somebody to come out of there and become anything. But I was able to come out. So if I could come out of that village and become somebody and become who I became, I just said, it's not possible to be mega church. Is it not work that it will take? I'm going to walk and it's going to be possible for me. And it became possible. Why people don't come? What will it take for them to come? I have to have superior wisdom, superior knowledge. Then I'll work on myself until I have it. Then you discover all of them will come. And that's what I did. So my negative things that I used to think they are negative, they could actually be turned into positive factors of success and confidence. So now my suffering and my depravement now are the reference point that I was now using to build my mega church, to study in the library, to be the best in the university, and all that. So, for example, when I was starting the church, I knew that because I didn't know much that time. I didn't have much knowledge like now. But then I knew that you could do a lot by prayers. So I was determined that the first year of my church, I was praying 6 hours every day. Now, the discipline to be in prayer for 6 hours every day, not everybody can do it. But because of the way I would spend 6 hours in the bush, in the sun, for me, 6 hours prayer is no more prayer problem. Then I remembered again the 6 hours in the library that I did also in the university. I was able to do it. It took discipline, but before God, then it's more easier. So the things that I used to think that were negative, they are now becoming my reference point to build a stronger future and a confident future. So these are the things that you also could use. So looking back, I'm saying there are a lot of factors, a lot of things that Satan used to bring lack of self-confidence to me, to lack of self-esteem to my life. But now I'm looking back and I'm saying, no, those same factors, they are like a coin. Every coin has two sides to it. It's not just positive or evil, bad or good. They are two. They are both of them, both bad and good. So the fact that I was brought up in poverty is not just bad. There is something good in it. The fact that I needed to live in the firewood bush and the firewood, and also there is a positive factor in it. It's not just bad or good. They are both bad. There is both good, bad, and there is good in it as well. So what are the other reference points that I could at least look back at right now and think they are actually good things? Hard work. I used to cry when I used to hate my grandmother. I used to cry. I used to abuse her. I used to attack her. I used to speak evil of her. I used to just think that she's just wicked because she's making me to work so hard. And she herself is working even harder than me, but making me as a little boy to work so hard. I thought it was a child abuse. I didn't know anything like a child abuse that time, but that was what I was feeling. I felt that I was the most unfortunate person in my life and in life. But now, it is that same hard work that has made me to be who I became today. Because I love to work hard, and that hard work is now, making me who I became. Even the book that I'm launching this week, I'm sure you have seen the book. The book is called Why You Must Urgently Become a Workaholic. Why You Must Urgently Become a Workaholic. So that book, Why You Must Urgently Become a Workaholic, I will advise all of you to read it, because that is one of the greatest blessings that God has given me while I was thinking that God hated me I was thinking that it was the worst thing that could happen to me. But now I've seen that it is the best thing that God has given me, best gift that God has given me. And so some of the things that you are looking at and thinking, there are factors that bring you down, and there are factors that bring you low self-esteem. You can turn it around. You can change it. You can look back in a different way at it, and you will see that, no, God is not unwise, and God didn't deprive you. God is not wicked. And those things that you think are bad, if you just look from the other side, you could see all the positive in it as well. And I also see that those people that I was envying, that I was jealous of, that they were going to England, that they were well-to-do, and they were, prosperous and all that, those people now, they, I can see now what they lack. They didn't have what I had. They didn't have what I had, and they couldn't endure what I endure, so they couldn't become who I became. I am greater than all of them right now because I could pay the price of hard work. I could pay the price of endurance. So another thing that I used to, that when I look back at my history and the pain and the suffering and the poverty, what I've seen right now is that helped me to develop endurance. And that endurance is what I needed to endure in the library for 6 hours after class. It's what I needed to endure in my solitude when I'm praying for 14 hours without stop. It's what I needed before I go to preach when I started the church to pray 6 hours a day. That endurance was what I developed in the village. Now, when I remember my endurance in the village, I now know I can do everything. That there is nothing possible for me. That there is, that everything could be done. That I cannot be stopped. That there is no impossibility. So those negative things I thought were negative, they are actually now my reference point. My reference point to build confidence in the new things that I need to do in my life and in my future. I lost my grandmother, who was the only person I had when I was 16. I wanted to kill myself. I thought God was not fair. The most painful thing was that I didn't succeed in saying thank you to her. I really wanted her to be there when I would grow up, become at least a little bit successful, so that she could be there to at least hear some words of thank you, gratitude, and appreciation from me. I had all kinds of dreams in my mind. I was dreaming that when I grow up, I would build her a house. Because she was living in a family house with just one room for her in that family house. And she grew up in that room with all her 7 children and me in one room. We had something that was called mat. So I used to sleep, all of us used to sleep on the mat on the floor. No pillow. I never even knew you could use pillow. So I thought I would be able to build a house one day. So when she was taken and she died, I thought, this is the height of wickedness. Couldn't say thank you even. And the only thing she saw and remembered of me was my wickedness, how I was wicked to her, how I was harsh to her, and disobedient. So I didn't really want her to go to heaven with that kind of memory. Well, let me stop talking about that. Anyway, so that loss for me was very devastating, and I think God was not fair about that. But today, when I look back, I see that it's thanks to that loss that I am who I am today. Because, let me tell you why. Because when she died, and I couldn't say thank you to her, and I couldn't appreciate her for all her sacrifice for me, I vowed to myself and to God that from today, I will never lose another such opportunity to say thank you and to express gratitude to people who sacrifice anything for me. I will never pass by anybody without taking advantage of the time. I just knew that I lost the opportunity. I will never lose an opportunity to do good anymore, was my resolution. I will never lose the opportunity to do good to anybody. If it's in my power to do it, just like I lost the opportunity to do good to say thank you to my grandmother and to appreciate her, I will never lose that opportunity again. So from there, I say now, anybody, any human being, for the sake of my grandmother, I would do good to everybody without losing the opportunity. I didn't want to feel that same pain that I felt, that I was not able to express my gratitude to my grandmother. That pain, I don't want to experience it anymore with anybody that I lost. I don't want to ever lose the opportunity to do good anymore to anyone. So it formed in me my core. So if you see me now, in fact, people here in Ukraine, the people who know me very well, they know that my biggest weakness is my commitment, over-commitment to help people, that my kindness, that I'm too accessible to a fault. And there's a reason for that also, because of all my story. They all made me to be who I am. So what used to be, negative factor that I grew up even without my grandmother since 15. So since 15 years old, I've been living alone. She died when I was 16, but at 15, she left home. She stayed almost a year in the hospital. So I've been living alone since I was 15. And as harsh as that is, now I know, thanks to that death, I can now love people. This is before I met Christ. Because I know that she picked me up. I didn't have a father and mother. She picked me up and became my father and my mother. So I don't want to miss any opportunity to be able to pick other people up as well. So I would never pass by in need. This is even before I even read the Bible. So sometimes God uses your experiences and your, whatever happened to you to make you who you need to become. So these things that I used to say, they were evil factors that brought low self-esteem. When I look back now, they are now being used for my good. They are becoming reference points, factors of building me up. Life in Nigeria especially taught me, when I was growing up in Nigeria and in Africa, I thought life was against me, God was against me, that there was no God on earth, and that if there is God, is wicked. Why? Because I needed to fight for everything. Fight for everything. And then it's for nothing, because one of those things, when you fight for them, you don't even see any result at the end of the day. But today, I see it as positive. Because I now see that if I need to fight for anything in life, and my life has been about fighting. That's why I never shy away from fights here. Fighting for God, fighting for the right cause, fighting for what is right, fighting for the truth, fighting for people, fighting for righteousness, fighting for the will and purpose of God on the earth. So, my fighting spirit that Nigeria gave me, now I'm seeing it as positive. It's not just all negative. What are the other factors of self-confidence that I see looking back in my life? Today, living in a country where I am a minority, in Europe and in Ukraine, and leading a congregation where 99% of the people are white Europeans, I can say I wouldn't have become who I became today without the Nigerian gene. So some people are ashamed that they are Nigerians, or some people don't want to identify themselves as Nigerians. But I want to say, to answer the fact that I'm a Nigerian, I am who I am today. If I had been born a European, I wouldn't have become Pastor Sunday. If I had been born in America, I wouldn't have become Pastor Sunday. Even if I had been born in any other African country, I wouldn't have had the same combination of passion, the same zeal, all these things that are natural to me. They are all thanks to the fact that my parents are Nigerians and that I grew up in Nigeria. That survival spirit is a Nigerian gift to me. And I own that survival spirit and fighting spirit to a large extent to the fact that I'm Nigerian. If I had only been a Yoruba man, if Yorubas, because we have Yorubas in Togo, we have Yorubas in Benin Republic, we have Yorubas in other places that apart from Nigeria, but the Nigerian Yorubas are different from the other Yorubas. And the reason is because, like we have the Igbos have this survival spirit, very strong, and fighting spirit. And because they are in Nigeria and because we are one together, so they have infected Nigeria with some of their culture. And Yorubas have been infected by their struggle, their enterprising spirit. And Yorubas also have infected the Igbos with their respect and honor and other things. Nigerian is a melting pot, so everything is mixed up. So all those things, factors that other nationalities in Nigeria brought together to the same pot is what makes a Nigerian a Nigerian. And that is what we are learning on subconscious level to stand for yourself, to fight for yourself. Those are Nigerian stuff. And to survive, to struggle, to be resilient, those are Nigerian qualities. And those qualities, they make Nigerians different from other nationalities. Why? They make us different from Ghanaians. They make us different from Togolese. They make us different from others. Why? Because the Nigerian, what makes Nigerian unique are the melting pot of all these nationalities. They bring the best. The Edos, the Niger Deltas, the other people, the Hausas, the Igbos, everybody were enriching one another. And that enrichment is what made me who I am today. Before, I used to think it's bad. Before, when I used to be in Nigeria, I used to think it is very bad that I share the same country with the Hausas, Fulanis, because I thought they were oppressing us, they were ruling over us. Without them, we would be better. But now, I know without them, I won't even be me. Before, I used to be ashamed of Igbos that used to carry drugs and do all kind of, especially with the drugs. Otherwise, I think I know that they have a lot of positive stuff, but the drugs, I used to just be ashamed that why are these Igbos carrying drugs? Let them do something. Let's do something. But now, I thank God that we're in the same country with the Igbos, because if not for them, I won't have been who I am with the enterprises and things like that. All the things that they bring to the table also. So the same thing with everybody. So I now see these things as positive factors that I can fall back on to become who I need to become. And of course, I wouldn't have been who I am if I'm not being a Yoruba person. That is also part of my wealth. Like I said, before I left Nigeria, I never even spoke English. I only spoke Yoruba. So I'm a Yoruba man, proper. And that culture and that value system also contributed to who I am. So I look back and I see that I could draw the positive, and I could draw also not just positive, but self-confidence from all these factors that people normally would have thought are evil or are negative. Now, how did I get my healing? What are the healing reference points for me? Okay, these are all other the ones that I mentioned earlier. They are positive factors that were negative factors that have become positive. But healing, how did I get my healing? The healing factor number one for me is my acquaintance with God when I became born again. Because I was religious, I was an Anglican Christian, but not born again. When I became born again, I think I got some dimension of healing from rejection and from lack of confidence, from lack of self-confidence. Number two point of healing for me, reference points of healing, is the Word of God. One day my sister came and showed me Deuteronomy 28, verse 13. And she read the whole thing from verse 1 and verse 13. He said, if you diligently obey the word of the Lord thy God, that did this or that. So if you obey the word of the Lord the word thy God, he said you will be the head and not the tail. You will be first and not last. She talked to me strongly, so much that I believed it. The word of God became my healing. I believed in it. It became my fortress, my confidence, my anchor. So I began to believe that I could become the head. I could become the first. The word of God is another healing point for me. God, faith in God, because I got a father. I belong. I got self-worth. Number two, the word of God. That said, I could become everything I want to become. I could be at the best. It gave me confidence. I have a basis. The word of God became my basis for self-confidence. And all of us could still use that today. Our faith in God, we should adopt it, adapt it, and use it to become our factor of confidence, self-confidence. The word of God we should use as a means to build self-confidence in us, because you have something to stand on. Next point. Another point of healing for me was when I discovered that geniuses are not born. Because before this time, I used to think that geniuses, people who are genius or successful people, is God. This is our tradition. Our Yoruba tradition has mythologies that says it is destiny. They believe in destiny a lot. It is destiny that knows or that chooses who will be successful and who will not be successful. It's destiny that it is God's destiny, or the destiny that God has appointed for you, that makes you to be rich or poor. Fatality kind of. And but thank God, when I got to know the Word of God, I discovered that geniuses are not born. This is from Deuteronomy 2:28. That because it said anybody can. I could become the head. Yes. So geniuses are not born. So those ones, because I used to think before that I was not doing well in class, I was thinking all those people were born, God made them to be smart. And me, God didn't make me to be smart, so I cannot do anything about it. Then I discovered that God didn't create anybody to be smart and others to be dull. That everybody could become geniuses are created by their own hard work. That was what was the game changer for me. So I could create my own geniusness or geniusity or ingenuity by my hard work. It is hard work that gives back to geniuses. So genius is not born, but given birth to through hard work. So when I discovered that healed me. Because before, I had a blockage in my own mind that, I will never be this, I can never be this, I can never go this far. That's how God has chosen it. But when I discovered that, no, God didn't choose anything, anybody can predict and create his own future, that healed me. Because now I know I can fight. Now I know I can apply energy. I can use everything is in my hands. So that is another thing that God used to, another thing that God used to heal me. Next point of reference for my healing is the fact that it is possible for anybody to become whoever he wants to be. That is also thanks to the Bible. My sister also showed me that Deuteronomy, and I just understood that. So it means everybody can just become anybody. He said, yes. I asked my sister that question. So what do I need to do? Just walk out. That's the only thing. Then it means we all have equal standing. I never knew that we all had equal standing before. I used to think that if you are born in the rich family, then you have a better standing. If you are, born abroad, then you have a better standing. If you are white or European, you have a better standing. I used to think like that. But when I understood that everything depends only on me, then I know I don't have any problem. Then it means I will do my best. Let them do their best and let's see. That there is equal ground for everybody to be successful. That became my reference point to build my confidence and to become that I could become who I want to become in life. So, reference point. Usually negative reference points and positive reference points. And then how even negative reference points could be converted into positive reference points. You want to comment again? Mm-hmm. Come.
Hello again. Well, the first thought that I want to share is that I think this kind of analysis, deep analysis, is not possible without analytical thinking. So the fact that we had analytical thinking as a topic that we were learning before is very important, because otherwise it's not possible to analyze that deep, this thing. And the reason you were able to find the positive things in negative facts in your life and experiences is analytical thinking.
Yep.
So it's
but I used to think that everybody had analytical thinking, because I used to think like this for a long time.
Yeah.
Since 19.
Since 19. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So.
And I thought everybody used to think like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that women, they tend to analyze themselves that much, but the problem with women is that they are mostly, they don't have logical, development of their thoughts logical, and they are lost in this analysis. So if they would be doing, women would be using this strength that they have, to analyze themselves.
But they also think about negative.
Because they do not develop it logically. Like they cannot, you have to have a structure when you think, and you have to think what are the positive things, what are the negative things. And women are usually, they are analyzing themselves in the way what they feel, on feeling. So we have now. I think that we have a chance to change ourselves, and it's just that there need to be a time when we will analyze ourselves and this plan, so that we can do this work, and maybe there should be it should be repeatedly time to time, because we are forgetting some things after. And if we don't become living these things, if we don't start living these things, we are forgetting them. So for myself, yes, I also could reference to what Pastor was saying, and I found that yes, many things that were negative, they helped me a lot. Even the fact, the most painful thing, it was most probably the time of my when I was teenager and at school, the most negative and terrible experiences I had there, just because of opinions of other people about me. But this made me to have a strong desire to prove everyone that they were wrong. And this desire was so much strong that I were willing to risk. I went to work abroad when I was 19 years old, when it was not an easy thing. Even to make a passport was not an easy thing. But I wanted so much to prove everyone that they were wrong, that I were willing to risk at that time. And I took risks because no one knew, no one could give guarantees to me at that time that I'm going into good place and what they promise it will happen. So I believe that it played a role, but I can only see it now, because I thought that maybe it was a good luck to me, but maybe not. Maybe now I analyze and I think that it was not good luck only because this luck I might not use this opportunity, because if I wouldn't have this eager desire to, strong desire to prove everyone that they were wrong and that what I was believing inside of myself had to be shown to them, then I think I wouldn't be doing those choices that I was doing, risky choices. I think this played a lot. And then another thing that played the role, I told you before that the reference point of my siblings were not very strong, because most of them, they were not able to cope with their problems. They were not able to, to be on the top of everything that was coming into their lives. And this also made me to be willing to learn psychology, to research. So because I didn't want just to follow their patterns and to be a person that is just reacting. And I think this helped me to be a person that develop analytical thinking, because I was analyzing myself a lot when I was reading psychology and basically at a young age. I think this helped. So if I will continue working in this direction and I will analyze just like Pastor advised, I think I will find a lot of things yet that I can use. Basically, I think I will use my negative experience now to share with people how they can get from the point A to point B using my successful story in these experiences, like from turning bad to good. Because I think every one of us, we have such experiences that we turn something negative to positive. It's just that we don't give this so much value, and we don't think it is worth sharing with people. But it is actually so much helpful. Just imagine the fact that what Pastor shared, it's healing for us. And I think we can do the same also, because everyone has something that they turned from negative to positive, and we are just not practicing this so often. So this is what I wanted to share.
That's a bit.
Yeah, I want to do an announcement, and my announcement today is about the notes on live broadcasts. I've been announcing this last time, and I want to repeat that we still need people to send notes on live broadcasts that you are doing for yourself. If you are doing detailed notes, it will be very good if you will send them to vip@godembassy.org with the topic of the note.
Old ones or only new ones?
We have now old ones. Yeah, we have now about 80. We collected about 80 transcription, and we need 500. It's a lot of live broadcasts. And so, if you go through the live broadcast, note all points that you are writing for yourself. And even if you are doing for your personal use, you still can help us if you are sending this. This note. So just as they are, whatever you use. Do you use Word document, or you want just to copy paste into the email, send it in the form that you have it. And the email to send is vip@godembassy.org. And it's anytime you do it, you can send it. And another thing is that about collection of likes, we have a large list already of people who are willing to help. It's just not enough place there yet, so I'm given access little by little. So if you have written to me that you want to help with Facebook likes, I will come to you if I didn't yet. And if you didn't write to me before in the notes that you want to help with likes, but you still want to help, what is needed is just to get access to specific access to a page. You will get specific access to a page, and then you just need to click on the button to collect likes. So if you want still to help, write Facebook in the comments, the word Facebook. Not necessary to write if you already did it last time. Just write Facebook there, and I will come back to you. It's very easy, and you can help us to collect, to send invites people to like Dr. Sunday Dlaja page, so that we have 100,000 subscribers as soon as possible. These are two announcements I wanted to do. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay, everybody. It's been nice to be with you guys, and I hope you've been blessed by my story and by this teaching. Next Saturday, we're going to continue to teach on that. But today, yesterday we started a marathon of DSA birthday. So we are doing every day two Facebook live programs to commemorate Pastor Sunday's birthday. So at 7 o'clock, we are going to have another live broadcast at 7 with Pastor Sunday with the Russians. So he's going to be the Russian. It's going to be Pastor. It's going to be Olena. I think that she's going to speak today. But we're going to have a testimony today, and then at 9 o'clock, that's our time. We're going to have another one. So in the next 4 hours or 3.5 hours, we're having one. And then in the next one, we are going to have another one. So thank you so much for your time. And it's time for us to go now. We'll see you tonight in the next 4 hours. Blessings. Bye.